Hey everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of the Mind Body Health Podcast, where we do everything we can to arm you with the tools and the information to transform your life and get it to where it could be. Because the reality is, you hold the pen writing your life script. You live by your decisions. Each one will have an impact on you. Even your decision to listen or watch this episode is a great decision because it is going to be impactful as each of the episodes we aim to make. And on this particular episode, I'm delighted that we have a wonderful guest, Tony J. Selimi, from London, currently already travels all over the world helping people. He's a business strategist, he's human behavior, life coach. He's authored multiple books. He's like myself, so passionate about what he does, and he truly wants to make an impact on people. And this guy has an incredible backstory, which we're going to go into as well. And we're going to talk about resilience. We're going to talk about limiting beliefs. We're going to talk about how you can get out of your own way and not to allow your own environment to stop you achieving what you want, which, as I said, ultimately is happiness, your own perception of happiness. So with no further ado, Tony, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Dave. It's such a pleasure to be able to share insights so all the audience can grow, transform, and liberate themselves from the limiting beliefs and anything that stops them from achieving their greatest potential.
Exactly. And I always say a phrase repeatedly that in life, it's about being committed to evolving into a better version of yourself throughout your life. And like you're saying there, change, moving forward. And that's the key thing, that we all can evolve. And that's the way to look at it. And as well, better, not best. You know, a lot of time people aim to be the best, but there's no best. We can all, in every aspect of life, keep getting better and better. So about evolving. So I know you've evolved dramatically from being a child to this moment that you're sitting here. And that's why I'm excited to have you on, because you have an incredible story. And I definitely think out of everything that you will share, resilience is going to be such a big part of it and not being conditioned by your environment. So what I always like to start with guests, especially when I know parts of their background, is to go right back to the start. Like go back as far as you want, ideally even as a child, especially when I know your background. And to go right back there and take us all the way up again. Why are you sitting as you are now? And how have you got to a point where you were having such an impact on people's lives all over the world? But most importantly, your own life. Like you've made such an impact in your own life. You're truly living your dream. You're living your passion. But that wasn't always the case. Like you've had some very challenging, tough environments that you've grown up in and you've lived through. So if you go right back and then we'll take it from there and give as much value as you possibly can to the audience.
I was born in a small town in North Macedonia, western part of North Macedonia, but back then it was known as Yugoslavia. And I'm the youngest of 6 kids, and my parents are both farmers and entrepreneurs. So I had a diverse upbringing in a community full of different nationalities, different religion, but also in a state back then that was communism. So the moment I was born, I was presented with the first challenge, and that was I had crooked legs. And back then, we didn't have all the modern facilities we have today to help children with some form of disability. So my mother used what her parents taught her in an old-fashioned way with wooden clips to be able to bit by bit straighten my legs. So in the first 3 years, I wasn't really able to walk. So I used to admire other kids running around and crying for that freedom. One day, my mother will help me. So that pain that every single day when my mom would straighten my legs would remind me that the freedom would be at the end of the pain.
Yeah, she kept reinforcing that you were going to get there. Like it was never a case you're not going to be able to walk. You're going to get there.
Yes, even as a child, I remember the desire within me. You know, nobody taught me about this. I just could feel it by looking at the reality outside of me and observing those children. At the same time, my parents worked a lot in the restaurants. So, you know, it wasn't, they weren't always there. So, you know, as I overcame that challenge and she managed to straighten my legs, I went back to school and started really thriving in school. Another challenge hit me, which was severe illness in my lungs and my heart, which left me hospitalized for 2 years, 6 months out of which I was in a life support machine, to the point that, you know, the doctors back then gave up and told my parents to come back to Macedonia because I have only 3 days to live. So luckily, when I was born, one of the spiritual teachers that my parents followed, who also helped my brother to heal from epilepsy, told my parents when I was born, I'm going to be this masterful healer and educator who's going to go around the world and have homes in the hearts of millions of people.
That to your
So
parents. Your parents were told that by the spiritual leader.
yes, when I
Amazing.
was born. Yes.
Amazing.
And my mother was serving dinner to all the employees when her water broke. And this spiritual teacher was there guiding them into their dinner, basically. And he lives back then lived because now he passed away in the mountains of Macedonia. So my father came from Bosnia because we had restaurants across former Yugoslavia to Macedonia after my mom called him from hospital. And they took me straight to him from hospital and turned around and said, well, your prediction is wrong. You helped my other son. Can you do the same with this one? And apparently he opened up the door in this very tin house in the middle of the mountains, smiled at them, and apparently told him, okay, it's just a test. Don't worry, he'll be okay. And they left me in there, and he told them basically to go every evening to pick me up and bring me back to hospital. And so that went 6 months in and out. And as soon as I started getting better, I was observing this old man with not much electricity around, with candles, living in the middle of the mountains, waking up every morning, 4 o'clock, going and picking up certain herbs, certain water from different rivers, fresh water, and working with the elements to be able to heal me. So I became extremely curious at the age of 9. How is it
Was
possible?
it 7 to 9, Tony? Is that when you had that, the whole illness and in hospital? Was it
Yes,
7 to 9
correct.
back in the range?
Basically, 9. By the age of 9, going into 10, I became very well, basically. So, but the illness started at the age of 7. So, and basically, this guy started teaching me techniques, and I became very curious about how modern medicine is so limiting. And I wanted to understand the science, and I wanted to go deeper into the science, mathematics, physics, and really understanding life and what we call as God, and also the perceived limits that where you are, where you live, and the conditions and the expectations from others, that basically you're not good enough unless you are certain nationalities, certain creeds, certain religions, certain backgrounds, certain parenting. And I just came from a very humble family background that parents instilled in me the importance of education. So at the same time, when I went back to school, in every school that I went, I was one of the top people. So parents started investing to have additional teachers to work with me on top of the school. And every school I went, I won many awards in physics, mathematics. Then as I finished my high school in the capital of the city, Skopje, where I lived from age 14 on my own, and won many awards for the school, I wanted to go to one of the top engineering universities to continue with my studies, which was in Zagreb, now Croatia, the capital of Croatia, which I did. And I won the first place to enter the university because back then they only allowed 120 students every year. So you had to be one of the best ones in the entire country to be able to get into the list. Amazing. I did. My parents were very happy. So I finished my first year, then the civil warfare upon us. Just as I really reached that momentum when I felt like, oh my God, my spirit is going towards the right direction, that need to explore life, explore what is it about life that makes us good people, bad people, that brings war, all of that, and the civil warfare. And then I was taken by the army, straight into the army, in the former Yugoslav army, to fight a civil war against my own people. A civil war that was very, very massive against my own will. So fast forward 14 months in the army, I saw things no child should observe. So I lost all of the belief and everything that I was brought up with, all the values, and start questioning the deeper meaning of life. And also, I never knew if I'm going to survive every second. It wasn't about surviving every day. I wasn't really aware that I will have another breath. So during this period, I learned so many skills to be able to survive, but not only survive, but hold on to that vision, which is very important about why I'm here. What is it that I can do to make a difference in the midst of chaos? How can I help people?
You still hung on to that, despite what you're enduring.
Yes.
And as you said, you were challenged in your own mind, even with what you're experiencing then versus the mindset you had before it started.
Absolutely, because in Macedonia back then, as a person from an Albanian origin, you were treated very badly. You were treated like a third class citizen. So, I went to the best schools, which were in Macedonian schools, as a person of an Albanian origin. They really treat you bad. There was a lot of bullying, a lot of undermining that you are nobody. So, but deep down, my parents always said to me, show people who you are with kindness and with action. not with words. And that advice followed me all my life, by the way. So,
doesn't it show the importance of the parenting, though? Like, this is one thing that I'm really passionate about, is parenting. And it's something I see is on the decline massively in the modern world for definitely the last 10 years. Technology is having a big part to play as well. But like, look at the experience you had, the environment you had with your parents, right from a very young age, like from when you were born, the holistic methods, the resourcefulness of your mother in how she healed your legs, being aware and open-minded enough to look at a spiritual healer, not think it was like some woo-woo, trusting that person, allowing you having the maturity to be able to go away on your own at 14, then going away to Croatia. It's just such an amazing, like, that gave you such a great kind of grounding and foundation to go into the world. And especially you went into such a contrast. You got to then see the worst of the world, having lived in a mindset of the best of the world and the potential.
Yes, I mean, basically, working in the farm, and also during the summers, I spend most of my time during the summers as a kid to support my parents in their restaurants. So we come from a very hardworking family, which means, first time I went on holiday was at the age of 30 after I graduated in London and overcame all the adversity. So for me, I didn't even know that parents take their children on holiday. And equally, when you're talking about today's parenting, a lot of parents have given up on their children. And they don't instill the values, the discipline, the challenges that life presents you to be able to overcome any challenge in life. They all go into this support, but no challenge. And it is the balance between support and challenging the child that child forms an adult which is healthy and can overcome every adversity out there, instead of having this polarized, one-sided psychology that life is great only when it's positive.
Exactly. So, life isn't like that. And this is the reality. And people need to accept that reality in terms of, I always compare it to a roller coaster. Like life, things can be amazing. Something challenging is coming. Not necessarily bad, challenging, which is an opportunity to grow. Then things can be amazing, loads of opportunities, again, if your mind is open to it. But there's always going to be a challenge coming. This is why it's so important for us to learn how to manage our emotional states, because we're emotional beings. We're going to be impacted by everything in a millisecond. But how do we manage it then in the moment to bring it down or bring it up? So like, it's so important to learn these kind of skills. We don't learn these things at school. That's the importance. And that's why it's so important. Again, people like yourself out there helping people along these things to learn such important, valuable skills at whatever age they're at.
You mentioned something at the beginning, which was about evolving. It's the moment I actually went on this journey after I overcame many adversities. When I started writing my books, I coined the term ever evolving. So because, I realized that a lot of the stuff that was being taught back then, I'm talking about in the year 90s, in 2000, 2010, it was about finding this unique purpose. But life is not like that, Dave. Life teaches us that every single season there's something evolves, something grows. And we are life. We are part of life, not a part. So therefore, I said to myself, I'm not going to teach the lie. I'm going to teach people the truth, that their journey is always evolving. And no matter where they are, even when people would ask me, how long do I need to work with you? My answer would be simple. How far do you want me to take you? How far do you want to evolve? Whether it's your vision, whether it's your mission, whether it's your mind, whether it's your emotional mastery, your spirituality, or your service to humanity. So I always let the choice to be at the client. As a result of that, the kind of clients I develop globally are people who are excellent at what they do, and they want to evolve so they can maximize their true potential and be able to not only monetize their wisdom, but through that, give something back and build into philanthropy, which is something the latest book that it's now out end of this month talks about, the importance of building a successful business, a prosperity business with sustainability behind, with soul behind, and then basically treat people in the matter where we say kindness is what opens every door and liberates our spirit, our mind.
And that's the thing, kindness, and that's, again, take the modern world, that's what we need to get more of. There's been more and more kindness and acting with love. And because, again, too much of it has become very self-absorbed, self-centered. It's a comparison culture world. Obviously, social media technology has played a part in that. But at the same time, we make our choices. And this is where, again, we can't blame things, can't make excuses. It's about taking personal responsibility. It's like the people you're saying who are always looking to evolve. It's a key feature of them that typically they will always be people who take personal responsibility for their lives and take responsibility for all. Even if other people have been involved in impacting them, they still have had a role in letting that person in or something like that, or tolerating a behavior, or they've had some kind of role in it, and they own that and they learn from it. Because again, it's all about ever evolving. Again, that's brilliant. I love that. It's such an important thing for people to grasp. And like, again, tied in with that then, the whole emotional mastery. Like these two kind of concepts and mindset shifts and reframings in a way are so important for people to live by.
Absolutely. I mean, sometimes I share with people the greatest environment for you to really see how emotionally you are evolved is your family. Those people who trigger you,
Yeah, 100%.
And, in every family, no matter how evolved they are, no matter how successful they are, I've seen those conflicts. And, sometimes when I work with people who have issues in their family, I will obviously first work with their parents. And if they have issues with their children or siblings and stuff like that, first and foremost, I get to know each individual. And then I bring them together and ask them some really powerful questions. And they come to realize one very powerful thing, Dave, which is I teach when I work one-on-one with people, especially people who are going to spiritual growth. And I say the mantra, I am you, you are me, together we are love. And I let them repeat this for about 2 minutes. In every session I've had people crying, looking at each other and embracing each other.
Did they do that for 2 minutes? I am you, you are me.
Together we are love.
Together we love. Excellent.
And then look at the person's eyes and hold their hands, by the way. You must have a physical contact. Because physical contact is the heart chakra. The power of touch. People today have forgotten what it means to be touched.
Yeah.
And, with all the different things that are out there, a lot of people feel like it's inappropriate to touch somebody. One of the tests I do when they bring me in the corporate world, especially men, because men have lost that a long time ago. I go and grab them and I hug them. Some of them, they freeze, by the way.
Completely.
And then when we go into private session, we discover the issues with their fathers. They never had the intimacy required, the love required, the attention required. They've never been there for them. So therefore, they really develop that masculine intelligence in a loving way.
Yeah.
And how to hold that authority and that space between men. And I think today we have more and more men like you and me and other men out there who actually promote emotional intelligence for men. So therefore they can love beyond the labels.
Yeah, and it's so important. And like said the whole thing of like touch, and it's that interconnectedness and transfer of love and positive energy is so important. And it's like, again, I go back to the whole modern thing in technology and so on. People are become more in their own lane like that. It's not appropriate now to touch in some form, even if, again, we're social beings, we're human beings. It's normal for us to do that. And like as you said that, I could think of a couple of people, some are quite close friends, who like that, even to approach them, to give them a hug, like they're just, they do not want it. And the reality then is they're storing negative energy within themselves, because all of us want to express love. And if we don't express it, it has to store inside. Just like if we've got negative emotion, like whenever anyone has someone pass, I always stress to them, make sure you grieve and make sure you allow the emotions out in whatever shape or form. It could be screaming, it could be journaling, it could be talking to someone in a safe space. Get it out. But if you store these emotions inside, they're going to ultimately have like a negative impact. And again, it goes back to we're social beings. We're meant to interact verbally, physically, every kind of sense. So it's important to get that out there. And as you said, it's people like ourselves saying that message. And it's like, even for myself, I would have very much experienced what you said about people with their dads, where there would have been no emotion. You would have been that generation where you don't show emotion, it's weakness. Men don't hug, they don't say they love you, nothing like that. And when my son was born, I was very conscious of, I'm going to express love to him constantly and make him see that that's a normal behavior, so he then will do it to me. And I'll always remember, I think my son Max was maybe 5 at the time. And we were in their house, and I was going somewhere, and I went to give him a hug. We gave each other a hug and said we love each other. And my father goes, will you stop that kind of stuff? You're going to turn him into a wimp and all this type of thing. And it actually took, I'd say, about 10 years, maybe 11 years, till he was about 15. He stopped saying things like that because he could see it was actually a positive impact. You could see the relationship we had was so close. You could also see my son was forming into a very good human, which obviously is more important than anything. So he himself has even become a bit more expressive, I can see, especially with my son. So it's a case, again, showing, and then hopefully, again, we influence other people in the same way.
Yes, I mean, it's beautiful that some parents like you do that. But if I look back, by the way, my father wasn't emotionally connected to me or anything like that. He was simply a provider, not only for our family, for the entire family, Dave. He worked 18 hours a day. And so did my mom, by the way. But I was closer with my mom. And I want to share a story in there for all the people out there who are listening to us right now. If they have any anger towards their fathers, I want to help them diffuse that anger. So this was me, by the way, after overcoming, like, my life being saved in the Civil War, ending up homeless in London, and then having to struggle into a new country, broken identity, no money, no friends. I couldn't even speak English, and trying to heal my trauma and the pain. So, I worked for 5 jobs and self-funded my education, as I have done since age 14, by the way. I've been independent with that. So when I graduated, when I did my master's at UCL, and the war had settled down there, I lost family, I lost friends, I lost everything, basically. Me and my sister, we managed to save my dad from Bosnia. So we had a lot of trauma in there. And then when I graduated, I invited them to come for my graduation. And I haven't seen my parents for that almost like 8 years, nothing. Back then, we didn't have mobile phones and be able to go instant like this, okay? And it was extremely expensive for you to make an international phone call. And for those who remember it, especially if you lived abroad, the red phone boxes were just eating your entire salary for one phone call with your family. So when dad came here, my mom came here, they came to the graduation ceremony. Me and a few friends who studied engineering and organizational behavior, we set up a very nice after dinner at the Ritz. And my parents being restaurateurs, they always appreciated restaurants and beautiful places and dining experiences because they fed millions of people in their life. So after that ceremony, when we went home, my mother laid down, and me and my dad, we lit a candle for the spirit, and we put a bit of whiskey to have a man-to-man chat for the first time, Dave. Because in our culture, you don't say anything back to your father or grandfather, anybody who's elderly. You are taught to listen.
Yeah.
Something many people have forgot about it. Something my people say, okay, you don't give your child freedom, but it is a very hidden power that most people haven't developed, which I developed from a very young age. But back then I used to judge that. So here I am with my dad having a conversation, and I asked my dad a question. I said, why you never loved me? Why did you love my brother more? And as he was having his whiskey, I could see tearing in his eyes. And he went like, let me share something with you. You are 6. If I cut any of the fingers, it will hurt like hell. And each finger serves a purpose. Like, your children are the same to me and to your mother. But the difference with you and your brother is you could go into the Sahara Desert and you can create Buckingham Palace. And your brother, you can bring him to Buckingham Palace and he will turn it into a Sahara Desert. As parents, intuitively, we know which child can be free and do without much of our support, and which of our child needs more support. So it's not because I did not love you, because I trusted in your greatness. And this was all the healing I needed to have with my dad, Dave.
That's such a shift.
And it was the first time, most incredible bonding, most incredible loving energy. And he lived another 8 years to see me succeed in the corporate world. And every year I used to bring them back with my mom because they helped so many people during the war. They helped entire families. They were extremely kind, spiritual, and provided the perfect environment for me to be who I am today.
Yeah, that's me. I had goosebumps as you were saying that moment. That moment's so precious. And what it screams of, so importantly, again, is the power and the importance of communication. Like if your father had never uttered those words to you and he had stayed close, you would have had your own perception of what the reality was. He didn't love you and he loved your brother more.
Your perception.
Completely, yeah. Whereas what he explained, complete logical sense. And especially
and I shared it so
kids.
Other people who may have those stuff is to have those deeper conversations with their loved ones. Because one thing that liberates you, Dave, is basically one day we all pass. but it's not what we leave behind. It's what people who will leave behind do with our deeds that we leave behind.
Very good. Yeah, very good. And it's like don't leave words unspoken. And that's a very important thing for people as well. And it's where people have to drop their egos, drop their pride, drop their perceptions, and like that. Like you were very brave in asking such a direct question to him as well, especially again when the mentality of the culture was you don't speak, you listen. So but if you didn't do it, this is where again we live by our decisions. If you had kind of thought about doing it, but you didn't do it, that conversation would never have happened. You would have gone about thinking your own way. Your father would have held on to that potentially forever, and then all left unspoken. So we need, again, open up, have emotional strength. If you don't feel you have it, get the guidance from good teachers like yourself that will help, again, get you management of your emotional state, because it's so powerful and so important. And especially get in a world now where it's so lost, where people have become so detached, where communication skills are on such a massive decrease. We see it with the youngest generation now, especially with the tech and all. Like communication skills are very, very weak, and we need to encourage it more. It's like nearly we need to go backwards more so than forwards. Technology is amazing, but we need to embrace it for the good it does, and we need to acknowledge the detrimental elements of it. And then also from the past, take the good parts of the past rather than just leaving them in the past and bring them forward as well. It's like go back to even what you said with spiritual teacher, and he was growing loads of things and herbs and healed your body. Like nature provides everything we need to heal. But people have moved more and more away from self-sufficiency, and they're more in reliance now. Whereas we need to keep moving more and more towards self-sufficiency. That's why like allotments and people growing some food, and even an apartment windowsill, it's a start. You need to move more and more towards it. And there's such therapeutic benefits anyway from reconnecting with nature, because like you said earlier on, we're all interconnected anyway.
Yes, I mean, it's the thing in there, I believe in a balanced approach, Dave. The balanced approach means there are a lot of things that we can do ourselves, and then there are a lot of things other people can assist us do. So, sometimes people ask this question, especially when I speak or when I'm on TV or being interviewed or with clients I work, saying, why do we need teachers? Why do we need coaches, mentors, healers, or therapists, and doctors, whatever the profession? And when it's all inside, and I can see the skewed perception that people when they say it's all inside. And my answer to that, especially to those who are listening right now, yes, the earth has all the elements, but it took the man to bring the elements out and to create the wonders we all enjoy. So therefore, we are all mirrors to each other, which means that potential, that untapped potential, if you knew it how to do it, you would have done it already. So, that period of 8 years, I did a lot of development and working with so many healers and therapists to heal my being before that conversation had to happen with my dad. So it didn't just happen, Dave. I had to overcome adversity after adversity, from being homeless to finding home, to finding jobs, to finding people, to learning the language, to reading books, to overcoming all the judgment as a migrant and refugee in this country. Back then we had really bad slogans about refugees, and nowadays we still use it as a political, as a weaponized thing, without really seeing the human behind the person.
Yeah,
and they
that's the key thing.
And it's really toxic for today's leaders to be able to do that, because in reality we all are migrants. We all here temporary.
Yeah, but that's it. That's the key thing. We're all humans. See people as humans. If people do good or bad deeds, that's one thing. But at the same time, you judge the person that they're a human first, and then see what their behaviors were. And it's like you're saying there, with all you had to go through with that 8 years, and that was on top of all the traumas and atrocities you had you'd experienced, and all the other things from all the adversity then in youth. So like that was an incredible 8 years of, again, go back to evolving for yourself to get to that position, sitting with your dad, to then be able to start that conversation. But it just shows the power of the importance. Yeah.
At age 28, and I'm glad I did, because as my parents passed away, first my dad and my mom, we had pure love for each other. The only thing I ask of God as universe is to be there in their passing, because I travel a lot and do a lot of that. And somehow, by miracle, Dave, when my dad passed, I was delivering a seminar. And basically, we managed, my company back then, managed to get me on a first flight to Macedonia from London. And I worked in technology back then, and I had a team of people and project managers, and we were working very important work. But throughout that work, I always empowered every team member. So if I'm not there, they can do the work. So back then, the boss, the company I was working for, when I was informed my dad passed away in hospital, I literally collapsed. And my boss put me straight away into a car, took me home, took my passport, arranged with the team all my flights. And I literally arrived the next morning, because in our culture, if you die in the afternoon, you get buried the next morning. And if you die in the morning, you get buried the same day. So I was there to really say my final goodbyes. And I had so many people around my dad, because they gifted so much to the community, and they took care of the refugees from Bosnia, from Kosovo, and they literally treated them like children. So their funerals were thousands of people in there. And I met people who I never met, but then who were telling me how my parents were so proud of everything I've done, how taking the legacy of the importance of education and treating people with kindness is going global. So they never told me those words, but having this conversation at the funeral with those people really reinforced that voice I had since I was a kid. And also those words of my parents always said, show people who you are with action and with beautiful deeds that empower somebody, the individual, humanity, leadership, no matter what space you are. So for me, it's always been about treating one another, no matter what the pain is, being able to step, become an observer, and let your heart have those conversations. Because if you truly want to see who this person is, challenge them. And if in the challenge they become like an animal, they have a long way to learn about the art of communicating with love.
A hell of a journey for you up to this point. And that was even up only till 28 or so. So it's now from 28, again, that's when you've graduated. And again, think of all you've gone through up to that point. Take us kind of there now up to present day and how your journey has gone. So that's when you really start to take off and start to really get out in the world and make your impact.
So basically, I spent the next 14 years becoming one of the best technologists out there, working in different project management, IT, head of department, then becoming a CIO. And then in 2008, when the financial crash happened, I had another reawakening and another huge loss. I lost the job and the income that I was supporting a lot of people who were dependent from me, especially after the war, but also the mortgage and all the demands of a life. And I literally stood in Oxford Street. All the papers were sharing there's no jobs. I applied about 1,000 jobs. I only got like handful, 10 replies. And, all the papers saying that, when you are at the top of your game in technology, everybody was getting rid of like CIOs and people who are expensive for the company. And then I went to Oxford Street and observing everybody spending money. So this was another awakening. I said to myself, I went from homeless to building an exceptional career and great income and great teams, and contributed in every company I worked, both public and private. And here I am finding myself again at the verge of being homeless again. And then went into my self-reflective mood. And I literally spent the evening in Oxford Street and watched the sunrise when people come into Oxford Street and start shopping. And I said, well, for some people, there is crisis, but other people, they spend no problem. So why am I in this situation? And then I meditated on that. And then I went to the job center and I said, okay, I paid into the system for 20 years. Let's see how they can help me. And I went with a very open mind, Dave. And there was a queue in Victoria at the job center in there. And I went and spoke to every individual in the queue. And I was almost like the queue was like a couple of hours. And I suddenly started creating this network of people sharing their stories, Dave, just like I'm sharing yours. And my heart was aching. How is it possible in a country with so much growth and economy to have all these vulnerable people in there with all their lives, with their kids, with their traumas, with their stuff, staying in there for £65 a week? And I said, £65 a week, you can't even buy bread and milk, nonetheless paying the bills or paying your mortgage or do everything else. So when I went and handed the papers, which were like pages and pages I need to fill, the person who received me did not even know what CIO means. They did not even know what my position is. How on earth can somebody who has no understanding at all can guide you within the job center for you to go back into employment? Because this idea that people don't want to work might be true for very, very percentage of people. But for majority of people, they are called to do work and be rewarded for that so they can have a good life. So I took all the papers, shredded them in my hands, and told everybody, liberate yourself. And I
There
went
and
on my
then, you said
knees
to the
outside,
people.
yes, outside the job center. And I literally prayed, Dave, and some people joined me. And I said to universe, to God, even if you send me one person a week to help, I will get at least 250 pounds per every session. I can help people, guide them through all the skills and knowledge I have.
Yeah.
And I cleaned my tears. People start hugging me. And I said to everybody, I said, don't rely on this. You are so much more than who you are. You are so much more than the person without a job. You are a being in there with tremendous power, with tremendous skills. Go and use it and be of service to people. And that's what I did. So within the week, I got the first client who paid me 250 quid for a 2-hour session. Then
Where
the
did it
next,
come from, Tony? Where did the client come from out of interest?
okay.
So you're outside
so
the job center, practically
yes.
known as penniless.
So
and then where did the client come from?
Firstly, 14 years in technology, I built a lot of bridges with a lot of people, and I helped a lot of people there, because back then I didn't really need an income. Secondly, for 14 years, I went into a lot of healing circles, and I was giving healing for free. All the knowledge that I learned from a young age, I used to give it to therapists who are healers, because they tend to help a lot of people. Then I went into the coaching industry. Then I did many other courses. I did an MBA. I did sort of all the courses with Tony Robbins, that I did Brian Tracy, that I did all these amazing teachers, Jack Canfield and everything else. So I kept growing the community while I was still building my technology career. So when I left, I literally made a shouting out, and it was the beginning of the social media.
Yeah.
And, one by one, people start referring people that I worked before, people who I helped during the corporate world, people who had migraines, and I used my healing hands to remove it. People that I helped connecting with people that I met. So bit by bit, I started really attracting those people. And also in my local community in Pimlico. Back then, I used to live in Pimlico, which is now just across the river. And I started really realizing that everything I've learned can be used for greater amount of serve people, greater amount of people I can serve. So, and when I did the MBA, I actually did it with a purpose to bridge the gap between spirituality and science. How do I merge those two together to have leaders, to have CEOs, politicians, governments, healthcare professionals, people who are lawyers, and people who are there doing an incredible job, that they find it very toxic, very stressful to manage their careers, to manage their business, their families. So I spent 12 weeks in meditation, and I channeled a unique methodology, being able to connect almost 30,000 books that I've read by that point. And also my career in education, but also 14 years in technology, in business, and in leadership. So I wanted really to merge the psychology, behavioral science, emotional intelligence, neuroscience, epigenetics, things that build leaderships, and what kind of leaders I loved working, or what kind of leaders I didn't, what was their traits, what were their habits, what they were leadership style, but also the processes and what makes people productive. So I wanted to bring it all together so people can have a step-by-step methodology to empower their spiritual life, their mental life, the emotional mastery, their career and their business, their social life, their relationship, their love life. Those are the key things that every human being desires to empower and grow. Some of us, if we're not at that level of growth, we tend to focus in one area. And when we focus in one area, other people can overpower us. And therefore, you'll never feel good enough. So for me, that was the point when I launched my first book, A Path to Wisdom, in 2014, amongst many clients that by then I built. And also, I used to run workshops for men. I did 3 years of men that came from all over Europe to my workshops. So I built a network of helping people. And when I came in there, I had some celebrity clients that I worked with, endorsing the book. We did it at the Hilton Trafalgar in the beautiful room. And I launched my book, and I launched my message to the world about the power of empowering, educating, and elevating the lives of 1 billion people with the methodologies. And I said to the entire room, to myself, even if I assist one person to become the greatest leader in the world, I've done my job. So many people can benefit. The fact that it sold millions of copies, the fact that many people benefited, the fact that I give almost 1 million for free for people to be able just to take the knowledge and to go out there, I didn't realize how many people will reach out and start working with me privately, or invite me to speak, or invite me to do those things. So as I did this, basically I started my company with a mission to educate 1 billion people and being able to elevate the consciousness at a global level, and being able to serve, no matter where I am, I serve the people who need growth, who want to evolve, who want to make a difference, who want to make a contribution, who want to build businesses, who want to bring their knowledge out there to many people to benefit, who simply want to contribute. And I noticed one thing that was growing from 2014, wherever I was traveling, and the issue was loneliness. And having gone through that loneliness in myself, I could easily recognize it in every person, in every airport lunch, in every restaurant where families eat and their children are not connecting with them. Yeah. They're connected with their phones, with their iPads. So then, when I go into the office, when I work with corporate leaders or whoever invites me to work with them, I see the teams fully disconnected. They send emails instead of turning around and speaking to a human being.
And how it happens in households, people text each other from upstairs and they're in the same house, even the same room.
Absolutely. Even people going on a date, Dave.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm going to write my next book, which is the #loneliness, the virus of modern age. And I wanted to integrate, first and foremost, for the first time, I shared 12 key journeys and adversities that hit me, that assisted me to be the teacher now I am to the world. So I wanted to share my loneliness and all the insights and the lessons through those journey, and how rising like a phoenix, I'm out there to make a difference globally and to inspire people. There's so much more to themselves than the perceived limits they have. So in there, I also wrote about the rise of AI and technology before anybody spoke about AI. And as a result, I was in America speaking with Jack Canfield in one of the big conferences down there, and I was doing book signing. And then a guy who runs the TEDx, he opened the book and looked at exactly at the chapter, Technological Armageddon, a wake-up call for humanity. He looked at that and he went like, here's my personal business card. You're going to open my conference, my TEDx conference in Wilmington with this topic. And I went like, no pressure. Then suddenly I had to learn all of the skills, hire many people for me to be able to bring that message into something that inspires humanity. So I delivered that talk, and that talk, Technological Armageddon, is also available on the TED platform, which is very rare because they choose only certain talks to put on the TED. So it's
when was that, Tony? What year was that?
2017.
So 8 years ago. Yeah.
Yes.
We're ahead of your time.
So basically, now it has million+ views. So I keep seeing, because everything I predicted happened. And everything I predicted in there is happening and is going to happen.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to job losses, especially when it comes to full automation, that systems are not prepared for introducing such a powerful technology. Governments are not prepared. Educational systems are collapsing. A lot of people will lose their job without knowing how to use AI in order for them to succeed and become more human and become more successful with integration of AI and human intelligence.
And that's exactly it. And this is the thing about technology, which has been seen throughout human history. But this problem with this is, like, it's both exciting and scary because it's the speed. But humans can use this for incredible good. But unfortunately, humans throughout history, when there's technology, tend to do the opposite, unfortunately. But the scary thing here is the speed of development of AI. Even in the last 6 months, how quickly it's developing is incredible.
Absolutely. And this is one of the key messages that basically I call in there two types of AI, classic green and classic red. Classic means conscious, artificial, super intelligent technology. Green, like the data in Star Trek that helps us human beings to become incredible. And then you have classic red. This is people who basically would abuse technology, and they will always exist, and to really make humanity suffer. And we've seen already this happening right now across the world in certain countries where there's a conflict, where they use technology to kill people. This is where I talk about the corruption of the soul itself, when you don't recognize that one human being is you. The statement I said at the beginning of our talk, I'm you, you are me, together we are love. So when we try to undermine entire nation or individual, we never can fulfill our own potential. In Christ energy, if we go into religious perspective, we see treat thy neighbor as you treat thyself. And I can share the same principles in the Muslim religion, in Buddhism, in Taoism, in the philosophers from thousands of years, whether we go into Greek, whether we go into Italian, whether we go to Mexico, we go to Egypt, the School of Wisdom in Egypt. So there's something common thread in there. until humanity awakens into the intelligence that we are from the same source and we need to collaborate with that spirit of love.
It's coming back to being human.
Contributing this suffering that we create globally.
Completely. Like that's where it's coming back to being human, and then love, kindness, those kind of elements, unity. Like that's where the power is. That's why, again, like when love is the most powerful force there is. And when there's a massive love, where it be hundreds or thousands of people, it's nearly unstoppable. And it becomes like a domino effect. And this where, again, there needs to be such more of like a force for good out there. This where, again, like the work you do is so amazing, and think of the people you're impacting. And it's why you're so passionate about it and you're so invested in it. And look how much time you put into helping other people. But that then feeds your soul as well. Because you're out there using your own greatness and your own potential as a human to then help others. Your own life experience. Look at all the life experiences, and where there were horrible experiences to go through at the time, they've served you so well to teach you such incredible lessons about life that you can then impart them onto other people who are going through similar or the exact same. And this is where it boils again down to taking personal responsibility for where you're at, learning the lessons from what you do go through, and appreciating that, you know, life is a journey and that's the way it is. But for each of us, we can all have such an impact on other people. I just give a very simple example that I stress to people. Like when Maxwell Force, that's what, 15 years ago, I made a very conscious decision. I would have done this anyway to a degree, but not consciously. Every single person I encounter, let's say out for a walk or out and about, I will acknowledge them. Smile, nod, wink, hello, whatever. And you never know the impact of something that tiny. Yes, most people will not acknowledge you, mightn't even look at you, they won't even respond to you. But you could have someone who feels completely worthless, has never been acknowledged as a human being. They could have had a horrific day. They could be about to do something destructive. And you acknowledging their existence and their being a human as another human, that could completely turn around their day. And this, again, is the power that we have. And then when you take it up levels to, again, doing like workshops, one-to-ones and so on, and all the great content you share, again, we have so much power. And every one of us has a story. It's like being an author. Everyone can be an author. We all have stories. It's just too many people are afraid to share that, or they don't see the value in their stories. When there isn't a person living that doesn't have stories, will impress upon somebody and have a positive impact in their lives. So, you know, it's such valuable work that needs to be done, and more people need to do it. And go back again to being human and love and the power of all of that.
Absolutely. I mean, after all of this, Dave, again, I keep traveling, keep assisting people, keep speaking, keep doing training and being invited into people's homes to transform their lives. I was working with 3 successful entrepreneurs, one from England, Switzerland, and US in Dominican Republic. And then COVID happened. So, you know, when I came to England, a week later, the lockdown was announced. So therefore, all of my training plans had to shift. But having the background of technology, I switched very quickly in online form. And luckily, by then, Zoom was available, but not many people really took advantage of that. And also, it created this boost in very quickly companies and people investing in technology and starting really thinking about remote work. So I sat down again, you know, I put those white papers that I use when I train, that I stick them into wall. It's like the stickers, like whiteboard stickers.
Yeah.
They're excellent. Whoever invented them, great job, because it makes my life easy. I can teach anywhere. I can put them on the window. I can put them on the wall. So I sat down and I said, because my partner is a cardiologist. And also I have a lot of clients who work in the medical care. And also I supported during COVID. So I went like just before that happened, when I came back, I sit down and I said, what is the next problem, big problem I'm here to solve? And out of that, a room of 40 square meters came out with me dotting notes of what's going to happen if this blows into full pandemic. Started at a global level and what would be the impact. So I listed all the impact and all the problems and the cost behind that. Then I went on a government level. What will happen to the governments? What will happen in these conditions? And I wrote all of that, the impact, the cost, and all of that. Then I looked at the logistics behind that, and goods and services and all of those things in every different sector. And before I knew it, I saw this massive chaos being created in the middle of our eyes, and nobody was prepared for it. So out of that, the Unfakeable Code book was born. Take back control, lead authentically, and live freely on your terms. Which means no matter what the chaos is, there's always an order that goes with that. You know, when we go back into the yin and yang model, you know, we need to see the black and white as 2 exist in parallel, as none of them competing with each other. They just are, like always have been, by the way.
Yeah.
But this is at a greater scale that our generation hasn't seen. Our parents seen the destruction of the Second World War. And I heard all of the stories, which gave me a lot of insights. But this was almost another different kind of war that humanity was preparing for. So when I wrote the book, I wanted to go into the essence of why we're creating those big problems and who creates those big problems. And the essence of that is basically the different masks that we all wear. And we show up with those marks inauthentically with every person we meet. So if we're going to be inauthentic with every person, and if you are going to be an authentic leader, all of those problems that identified show up. So I really wanted to bring people back into authenticity and being able to take off the mask and see who they are in their essence. That you are this limitless being, evolving being, that no matter what the circumstances, you can choose whether you want to thrive or stay in pity if the circumstances change. And this is where, when you mentioned at the beginning of our conversation about what it means to take 100%, I don't use the word responsibility because it feels very heavy. I use the word responsibility. I just separated that. Because when I teach this to my clients, they feel almost like the weight has been lifted off them. Because responsibility, our body does not like it. Nobody likes more responsibility. But when you teach the person, you have the responsibility, they change the entire perspective how to handle stress and circumstances. That
it's an empowering difference. Like it's subtle, but it's very empowering. Yeah.
Tiny little things like that, shifts in people's consciousness, can literally liberate people. And I've seen it I've delivered over now 28,000 of private coaching hours with people. So I've seen how tiny words can change people fully in the moment. They don't need therapy, 10 years of therapy for that. So in there, I share a unique 5-step methodology for you to be able to go through the layers of the onion we all have. And the deeper you go, the more you can integrate those different personas that we built over a lifetime through conditioning, through pain, through trauma, through basically succumbing to outside expectations, have been developing the personality of a people pleaser and bringing you back in more integrated individual that keeps evolving on their journey to self-governance. So when I launched that one, again, all of my books won over 40, 50 global awards. I find myself in Hollywood. I find myself receiving Hollywood Award for the books that won the bestseller status. And I started also now attracting even whole different level of clients and people to serve. People who are seeking authenticity, people who invest in authentic leadership, people who want to be authentic themselves so they can show authentically in the world with who they are as parent, as father, as partner, as mother, as sister, as all of those labels we have. And how do we go back into the essence to have this incredible communication instead of having those jumbled communications and nobody listens? How to truly listen and be heard. So from that, then one of my clients that I helped build their tech company, they asked me, Tony, we want to share your wisdom. We're thinking about creating documentary and share our story with you transparently. That then gave birth to the Living My Illusion documentary, which then won, 50 plus film awards around the world. Again, Hollywood, LA, New York, London, Milan, Cannes Film Festival, all of that. So it created a whole new level of network, a whole new level of being invited to speak about it, being at every single award ceremony, meeting those people and growing my service and growing the kind of people I can help and assist. And also building a very powerful message at the same time during the documentary. Not only it helped the clients heal on this journey and create bigger vision for themselves, but also it showed that, how when we go through midlife crisis, because you mentioned at the beginning of the podcast that majority of people who are listening to this are in their 30s to 50. And usually we go through midlife crisis, but also women go through that. And we have different medical terms for that. And I wanted to understand the stages we have to go in order for us to overcome it very fast. So we don't really infect people we love with all of those different emotional states we have to overcome. And this goes both between men and women. So it's not really something. So the powerful thing about it was, as I got my clients to speak their truth, I said something that is also in the documentary and put the subtitle in there. The truth hurts. but it also liberates you.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the truth has is basically a tagline of documentary, one many words, and on Amazon Prime. For people who want to watch it, I always recommend to get a glass of wine or something to drink, because it's a literally real session. We filmed it for 3 years, working with my clients privately, both privately in their relationship, but also in the business, and transparently sharing that, with no editing. So we had to squeeze that in 47, and that was very, very powerful documentary. Now, as that went, again, I always look at the bigger problems. What is the next problem I can solve for humanity? What is the things that people want, every individual out there? And one thing that helped me always is, no matter what I was learning, Dave, no matter who I was serving, I wanted to do it with excellence leading the way. So the book, A Path to Excellence, was born. How to step into your greatest potential. And in every book, by the way, I put the methodologies that I share. I trademark them because I already use them in the market for almost 10 years with clients. So I put another methodology where I bring a lot of the wisdom from different philosophies and different disciplines that I started into a beautiful 8-step octagon of excellence that really empowers people to go through every level to become an excellent leader in your life, but also in the people you serve and in the people you love. So as that also went out into the world, won many awards again. Last year, I felt called to do something for entrepreneurs, for businesses, and for leaders. And the Climb Greater Heights, how to amplify your success and how to go from building accelerated growth in your business, whether as an entrepreneur or existing business, to reaching philanthropy level, where your business works like a Swiss clock. And then you use proportion of the, I would say, the profits to drive incredible humanitarian philanthropy projects that serves greater amount of people. So this was the latest book, and it's coming out at end of this month. And I'm extremely excited to share it with the world, because many people are going to be losing jobs due to AI. It gives you a roadmap how to go from an idea all the way to building a business, build your authority, build your credibility, learn the skills you require to thrive in your business. And also it's for SMEs, for people who are already entrepreneurs, feel stuck, because the two elements when you build a business is the mastering the inner game and the outer game, and how to unify those two visions and missions.
Amazing. Like, that's again such amazing work, and it's interesting to see your journey along the way, and again the different people then you ended up serving, or different areas or different types of people. Like you said, each time it's like, okay, who do I need to serve now? Who needs me? Different phases of the world, different crises of the world, or like that preempting in terms of like the AI as well. So it's been amazing, like again, the journey, again, the whole way from as a child all the way up to now, it's been such a growth and evolving journey. But I'd love to get from you now, because like we started off with, as I said, people are very much limited by their own minds, their own limiting beliefs, impacted by their environment, defined by their environments more so. And sometimes people, like, even all the information I've heard, it sounds amazing, obviously, but for some people it'd be, oh, but can that really happen for me? That happened, great, happened that person, this person, that person. Everything Tony's saying is making a lot of sense and the potential, but what about me now? Well, I'd say would be very powerful. A couple of stories of work with clients that are inspiring, but also incredibly transformational. And if you share some of their stories, again, where they were and then where they went, to like A to B, so that people can kind of go, oh, I can kind of see myself in there, and I can see how they got over their limiting beliefs and so on, and that they turned their lives around. So if you could share a couple of stories of clients, that'd be great.
Sure. I mean, what you're mentioning is the power of the way we learn, Dave. And the way we learn through observation, number one. So if we go back into the moment we come into this world, we don't have the logic developed. We interpret the world through our emotions. So emotions can guide us both in a very bad way, but also in a very good way. So one thing that I always loved, I always took example of people who achieved what I wanted to achieve. So, we get a lot of people who are no sayers, who are no believers and this like that. But we tend to really succumb to their opinion of who we are, because it's almost a reflection of where they are, not of where you are. And usually if we leave this kind of environment for us, we start opening up a new environment to allow new knowledge to come into our awareness. There's the old saying, where the student is ready, the teacher appears. So I always followed that, and I was taught that at a very young age. I always followed that simple insight. And, the reality is deep down of every human being, no matter where you believe, or no matter what limiting beliefs you have or anything like that, there's that voice that speaks to you, the voice that doesn't allow you to settle with average. This is the main purpose of a path to excellence. Step out of average into extraordinary. Now, I didn't do this overnight, Dave. I invested millions and I worked 7, 8 jobs, 10 jobs, every job I could get to be able to afford the people I wanted to help me to the next step. So, when people sometimes say to me, but I don't have the money, then I see them, they're extremely well dressed, they go on holidays, they share pictures from there, which means their values are not where their mouth and where their desires are. Thus, in all of my books, I created unique behavioral change principles that people can follow step by step. That's why I share through my books the work that some people may not be able to afford in that moment, but they can thrive to create the moment. And the truth is, when we give value to something, we will do absolutely anything to get it. So the first thing is for people to ask themselves, what kind of things I'm giving value to? What kind of people? What kind of, food or clothes or whatever it might be? And then look at if you were to change that and you put it into your long-term vision, and most people don't have it. First, sit down and see who do you want to be in 1 year time, 3 years time, 5 years time. And then start really looking, do the values and beliefs and the habits you developed thus far serve you for your next step of the journey? Now, holding on to something that brought us to this moment is not necessarily what will assist you to go where you want to go. So therefore, remaining open and emptying yourself to be able to bring new knowledge, new information, new people, new seminars, new training, new coaches, new therapists can really give you that edge. But again, going back to that voice within, that voice will never rest until you honor your greatness.
That's where, again, being fulfilled in life, like, again, everyone has that potential, so you need to tune into that. Yeah, like this is, again, goes back to, again, people holding the pen, and you have to be willing, and it's very key, like you point out there, is the whole values. Like, people need to look at themselves and go, what are my values? Like, do I even know what they are? Most people wouldn't know what they are if you ask them. They haven't ever given a thought. And then is their life, an illustration of them living towards their values. If they're to properly think about it, their values will be one thing, the way they're living is another thing. So there's total disconnect there. That needs to be reconnected.
Total disconnect. And in the latest book, Climb Greater Heights, I put a process that I've used now for 20 years to first and foremost keep going into clarification of the values, because most people think that the value you had when you were a kid is the same here now. And most people say to me, oh, I'm the same. But, if I ask them question in nature, nothing is the same. Everything evolves. Exactly. So therefore, when I ask deep questions, suddenly they realize that they are not really living their values. They're saying the words. So there's no alignment in that. And I observe the same behavior, by the way, in leadership. I observe it in companies where all their brochures are all these wonderful words that they call values. But when I ask questions, there's no alignment. So I created the clarification and alignment process for this. Because basically with my regular clients, we do this on a weekly basis, Dave, especially people who are called to build billion empires and to really make a difference globally. Why? Because your day changes so quickly with so many demands, so many stresses, so many ideas of where you want to go. And if you don't remain and evolve those values in alignment with the actions that you need to take to get you to a focal point, you will fail. And therefore, most people would be discouraged with that. So I recommend people to really look at their values every week and see whether you are still in alignment with the life you are creating. And of course, it's a step approach, Dave. I didn't become this guy overnight. It's taken me 35 years being in England to be able to develop and invest a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of energy, and remain committed and relentless in pursuit of transformation of self and others.
And that thing, commitment is so key to anything we want in life. But it's like you're saying, the values, like that's totally an important thing to do. Like I always recommend to people that every weekend, typically on a Sunday, do a quick, it might only be 15 minutes, but a reflection, review and planning session. So reflecting on the week, review your performance, what you did, what you didn't do, why you did or why you didn't do, triggers and so on, learn from it. and then plan then the next 7 days. And that would be a great addition to it. To again, look at your values and are they still the same values? And also, was that week a reflection of them? And how can I make the next 7 days a reflection of values? And also another thing that you were saying in terms of the values change, again, that's exactly right. If I look at myself for when I was, well, like I would have started my journey when I was 17. I'm 47 now. So I always say I'm 30 years in the making. I'm 30 years evolving, and it's going to keep happening. But my values when I was in my 20s are very different to what my values are now in my 40s. And even my values, like my son's just moved to Canada. He's nearly 20 now. My values during those 20 years were very different to what they are now and will be for the next few decades. Because another phase of my life, and my value was truly my son, because being a good role model to him, providing for him and so on. Because growing up, I always wanted a son. It was going to be something that I wanted more than anything else. So I had to change my values when he was born to that. Otherwise, I wasn't living true to my values. And before he was born, I was living true to the values I had at that time. And this all comes down again to being self-aware, living consciously, and having, again, go back to the word commitment. A commitment again to evolving, again, ever evolving, as you said, have coined the phrase yourself. This is again where you're living a life, again, it's in line with your values, you're living a progressive life, and you're living one that will bring you joy and happiness. And I suppose ultimately peace and contentment, which is what people are really searching for, but they're looking for it in the wrong places.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, all of those things that you shared are so valid for anybody who's listening to us. And the reality is the values with the beliefs, with the habits, with the action needs to be in alignment. Because sometimes you can have the values, but if there's no action attached to it, you become resentful. And resentful towards thyself. And when you're resentful towards thyself, you resent everybody who will show you they live in their values.
Yeah.
So, and this is why I see when people really become jealous of successful people. And, when you look at that, for me, always has been, how do I learn? And how do I evolve in this journey and become better every single day? And one of the, I would say, habits that I instill in all of my clients, first thing is the morning habit and then evening habit. And there are two different habits, by the way, because in the evening, our brain needs to process everything we've done throughout the day. So need to go into more calming and literally reorganizing the brain about the events and what lessons you can learn and being grateful for that. But equally in the morning, a great habit is because in today's world of technology, I see people sleeping with their phones. Yeah. I've had partners who sleep with their phones, and I walked away with that. As I said, the first thing they go to the phone, they don't go to the person they love. And starting with thyself, by the way, having that like 30 minutes or 60 minutes, you disconnected from technology and being able to gather your thoughts and have a clear plan of action and have a clear diary. What is it that you achieved today? What is your highest priority in action that you have in alignment with the vision and the life you want to create? And if you daily do that, even if you do one step every single day, 365 days, you're going to have 365 steps closer to your desired result, whether it's money, whether it's success, whether it's career, whether it's a product you want to bring in the world, whether it's getting you out of the situation, whether it's a better relationship or social life. No matter what you're asking, if you do those steps in the morning, I guarantee you success and long-term fulfillment.
It's inevitable. And I'm very much aligned with you on that. Again, it's about small steps every single day, no matter how small it is, and then look at the transformation in the year. Like, it's inevitable. And the morning evening routines are so crucial for people. And it's like with the morning one, like you said, starting your day and so on. But what's also very important about it is it's basically down to putting on your own oxygen mask first, which we hear on every single airplane, whether people are listening or not. But the message is important, because if you take the best care of you, then you're in the best position to take care of whoever else, whether it be loved ones or the public at large or the world at large. But things have to start with you. Because it's like even with you embracing your true essence and who you are and truly loving yourself. Like, that's actual freedom. That's what people need to, again, work on that. Again, it's something that's, again, ever evolving. We don't get taught this at school. We need to work on this all the time. Again, have, again, commitment. I tell you, Tony, shared such an amazing, inspirational story. It's been great to see the various phases of it. And the key thing in each one was resourcefulness and resilience in each single one. And you, again, taken responsibility in each situation as well. So that was brilliant. Like, I love the one, especially outside the job center, and you just going, right, you don't need it, I don't need them. We're going to forge our own path and make this happen. And I'm sure a few of those people around you were inspired to do that, and they did it. Others maybe kept the same path, but that's, again, the choice that they would have made. But it's been such an amazing journey, so much great information. What kind of parting message would you have for the listeners?
Firstly, it's you are a being of infinite intelligence. When we look back into the beginning of our life, it means you take a simple sperm and an egg. In there's the intelligence that builds you where you are and will support you for life. So never forget that kind of power, innate power that you have. No matter what the circumstance is outside of you, reflect back inside and ask yourself a simple question. What is it I can do now to change one thing in my life that currently does not serve me? And what is the next step that can bring me to a better situation? Do I want to succumb to external reality, or do I want to create inside mastery?
Brilliant. Now that's a perfect parting message. Tony, you're doing amazing work. You're a great guy. You're using your journey to help other people. And that's nothing but admirable. And it's great to, again, connect. And that's why, again, I have people, when I do have interviews, because a lot of time obviously I do these podcasts, just me. But when I have interviews, also people I feel very much aligned to, and people who I feel have similar values and are doing a similar mission, and most importantly, are authentic. And you scream authenticity every second, because you can see it, you can feel it as a human, that you're doing your work, that the best you can do to make your impact in the world. And I can very much align with that. And it's been a very powerful episode of this podcast. I'm sure it's going to have a positive impact on many, many people who listen to it. And for anyone who wants to reach out and see Tony, look out, get his books, check out all the information he does, maybe even look at working with him if you want, or check out his various retreats he does. I'll have all the links and all the information in the show notes, so just check them out. Importantly, share this episode out there. We can only get these episodes out to so many people. It's through you sharing with people who you feel it will have a positive impact on, or that they need it. Share it out there. Because we're fighting with algorithms all the time, like we do on social media and podcasts and so on. So guys, share it out to anyone you feel of value to. Make sure you leave comments below the episode. Make sure you've subscribed. Again, a lot of people listen, but they don't necessarily subscribe or follow. Just do that little action, because again, it all helps to get more people to see it. And hope you enjoyed this episode. I've no doubt you enjoyed this episode. Tony, I want to thank you so much for your time. I know it's precious. You're busy. You travel a lot, but you're a man of service. And this has been incredible service you've given for the last hour and 15, 20 minutes.
Thank you, Dave, from the bottom of my heart. And thank you to all of our listeners. And may they thrive.
Exactly. Put into action even just one nugget from this, and you're going to thrive. Because as well, it's momentum. You just get momentum once you see that positive impact and get empowered. So guys, thanks for tuning in. Go out there, thrive, make a difference in people's lives, keep evolving, and importantly as well, share this episode. Until the next episode, talk to you soon, guys.